Hey, friends, welcome to Let's Talk Context Live, episode 14. I'm Ethleen, and I'm re-recording. I'm doing this live over again because yesterday there were some technical issues and the sound wasn't that great, but I think I figured it out. So we shouldn't have any more sound issues. I think I was using the wrong USB port, and so that was part of the problem. And so I'm going to test my hypothesis today. Now, I have some news coming up, so please stick around. And if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, turn your notifications on so that you know when we're doing new videos, when new videos come out, when live streams are happening. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Around the world. Last week, I talked about how Spain had opened its borders to other European travelers to come and visit, right? And I kind of felt a way about that because I said Spain had been one of the hardest hit countries that just was impacted by coronavirus. And so I wasn't too happy, even though I'm not Spanish and, I don't live in Spain, just thinking about it from a logistical perspective and just thinking about it in general. I wasn't sure if that was the wisest decision to make. But understanding that the economy relies heavily on tourism and visitors, travelers, I get it, right? But today we're going to talk about how leaders in the EU, European countries, they're basically like, America, you guys have not handled this virus well, so we're considering closing our borders to you. And I can't fault the leaders of the EU for doing this. I really can't, because if you look at what's been happening over the last several months, even now, today, as I speak, there's still conflict. People still can't decide what to do and how to handle this virus here in the States. And so if leadership isn't in agreement about what to do, then I don't blame the rest of the world who's looking at how America's handling this virus and thinking, we have done everything we can to minimize this virus, to lower the mortality rate, to lower the infection rate. We are seeing very few new cases. And so we jumped on it really quickly to try to figure out what to do about this virus. And we are not willing to put our citizens at risk. And I'm talking about EU leaders. We're not willing to put our citizens at risk by allowing our borders to be open to people, to these Americans who are coming, when we see how America has been handling the virus. So what do you think about that? I'd be really curious. I love the conversation that some of you contributed to last week, your comments. And I would definitely want to hear, what do you think about leaders of the EU potentially banning American travelers from visiting their countries? And I mean, is there a time frame maybe? Let's say the EU says, okay, Americans, you're not allowed to travel to EU countries for 6 months. Do you think that's a fair time frame to give? Or do you think maybe it needs to be for 9 months or a year? What are your thoughts? And what have you seen? I'm really curious to know what you've seen in the media, on television, as far as how America's been handling the virus. Yeah, let's engage. I would love to just kind of know what's going through your head, because I'm wondering if the media is portraying the handling of the virus in a positive light or in a negative light. Okay, so here's some of the news. You are going to notice this week that some of our exercises on platforms are going to be changing. And that's because I've gotten some feedback from some of you over the last couple of months after introducing some exercises, taking away some others, that you would like more content. So we've been trying to create more content for you. But in creating more content, I've also gotten feedback, Ethleen, I don't understand this. I don't understand how you're going from point A to point Z. So in order to do that, though, the best thing for us to do is to go on a different platform. So you've heard me talk about Patreon. We have a Patreon page at Speak Right Play. And so we're moving some of our exercises to Patreon. But that doesn't mean Twitter, Instagram, Facebook are going to lose exercises necessarily. It means we're going to replace some of them. And so if you're wondering where some of the exercises went, they went on Patreon, and that will allow me to really share the content and explain some things in a more private setting, because I recognize that some of you may not be willing to ask questions in a public setting like online on Twitter. So that's the decision. That's the reason for the decision. There are also some other reasons, but definitely heavily trying to make sure that you're understanding. You're not just getting information for the sake of getting it, but you're understanding how I got to that point, and you get better instruction. So yeah, new content, you've already seen it probably, and you will be seeing more, which is awesome. Okay, so here's my thought. I want to know if you enjoyed the collaboration I did with Sherwin, because there was one that we did on his channel a couple weeks ago, and we just did another one last week on his channel. So if you haven't seen that one yet, be sure to go to Sherwin's channel and check out our collaboration, because tomorrow we have a third collaboration dropping on my channel, on this channel, Speak, Write, Play in English. And so I would love your feedback. So if there's an online English teacher that you would love, you're like, Ethleen, you have to do a collaboration with this person, let me know in the comments section, because I'm willing to like reach out and say, hey, some of my online friends and followers want us to do a collab. Well, yeah, just know that that's in the works, collaborations with other English teachers online, just to have some fun for you to see our exchange, to hear the different English accents. I just think that's super cool. All right, so pronunciation perfection. This is the last pronunciation perfection of the month, which means you have until, I think tomorrow, June ends tomorrow. You have until tomorrow to write this dictation down and to go to previous lives to get the other dictations if you're interested in winning one of my favorite books, a free English resource, totally free, no cost to you. You'll either get my copy or I'll mail you a copy, a brand new copy for yourself in English. So here's the deal. You write 4 dictations in the comment section of each video. And once you hit 4, your name gets entered to win one of those favorite books. And the winner will be announced this week on Twitter. So if you're not following us on Twitter, be sure to follow us, because that's where we're going to announce the winner. All right, so are you ready? Our team has been working incessantly to develop new content for our online friends. We've been amazed by your impressive display of grit to step up and face our challenges, no matter how severe. You've even attempted to occasionally memorize the information. So go ahead and write what you think you heard me say in the comment section, and be sure to do 4 dictations. Once you hit 4, you're entered to win one of my favorite books, and the winner will be announced this week on Twitter. You have until tomorrow to get the dictation in and submitted. Okay, any entries after tomorrow in July won't count. Sorry guys, we have to be fair. All right, so let's move on to Ask Anything. Why is the English native speakers speak not the same as in books? So this is a question that I hear a lot from people, and I get. So it's very much a valid question. The reason, and this is the case with any language, I think if you think about your own tongue, your own mother language, mother tongue rather, that you'll notice that yes, you learn academic English in school, you learn formal the language and its formal context. But then when you go outside, you're speaking more jargon, more slang. And so language morphs. It progresses over time. It evolves over time. And so that's what native speakers have done. Native speakers, we've gone through like 12 years, at minimum usually, 12 years of English in schools, literature, language arts, all that stuff. And then it's like, okay, I understand language and how language works, but I want to make language more convenient for myself. And so the language morphs into something else. And so the English you learn in books, usually the contractions are in long form. Well, you don't see contractions, and everything is kind of very rudimentary. There's a whole lot of structure, and that's just not how we speak. So that's why native speakers, we don't speak like we're like reading books. We just speak like we're talking normally, because the language has morphed, the way we speak has morphed. I hope that answers your question. When I speak English, people don't understand me. What can I do? Well, I think we have to understand. Well, what I would like to understand is, are people not understanding you because perhaps your accent is too thick, it's too heavy, it's too strong? Or are people not understanding you because the way you're constructing your sentences, your responses, just doesn't make sense? And so, if we were to able to answer that question, if it's because your accent is too thick, then I would say there are a ton of accent reduction courses you can take, or you can hire a tutor to work with you, an instructor to work with you to help you understand and hear more, get more exposure to the American accent, or if that's what you desire. Or if it's because the way you're constructing your answers isn't correct, then I would suggest definitely like watching movies and TV shows, because you can hear the way people respond in everyday situations. When I'm learning French, or when I was learning French, and when I practice my French, and I'm watching French films or movies or TV shows, I will often pause when I hear someone ask a question like, "Comment vas-tu?" or "Ça va?" Which just means "How are you?" right? And I'll listen for how the person responds. If they'll say "pas mal," "comme ci comme ça," or however they respond, and then I make note of that, because "comment vas-tu?" "Ça va?" "Qu'est-ce que tu fais?" Those are all questions that are common in everyday conversation. And so the more ways I know how to answer those types of questions, the better it is for me. And I understand that the structure is correct. So that's my advice, right? If it's because of your accent, then work with someone who's a native speaker, or who has a better accent, better, quote unquote, accent than you, to help your accent become better, to help improve. But if it's an issue of the way you're constructing your sentences, then watch some films, read some books, read books that have dialogue where people are conversing, and see how they answer everyday questions. I watch English movies, but I don't understand what they say. What can I do? My recommendation when you're watching movies in a target language is to watch the movies and also have your subtitles in that target language. I am not a huge fan of subtitles, because I think subtitles distract from having our ears do more of the work. And because our eyes are working, so we're just reading what the person is saying as opposed to really listening and paying attention to their intonation, to the way they're saying things. And so if that's the case, where you're watching English movies and you don't understand, put on subtitles and be sure that you're listening just as hard as you're watching, you're reading the text. My other suggestion is to reduce the playback speed. Someone had asked me when I first started doing lives if I could have subtitles for the lives. And I told them, no, that's not a feature that YouTube allows specifically for lives. If I were to upload a video, I could have subtitles, but for lives, that's just not an option. And so my suggestion was reduce your playback speed. You don't have to watch the lives at a normal speed. You can watch them at a slower speed, which still makes sense. You can still hear the accent. You can still, you're not missing out on the content. But if normal speed is too fast, then reduce it so that you are catching every single thing that I'm saying, the way I'm saying it, how my accent is. Because once your ears become more familiar with the language, with the sounds, and with the accent, then watching something at normal speed is no problem for you. And so that's my suggestion. If you're watching the movies now and you're not understanding, reduce your speed, or put on both subtitles, or do both. It's totally up to you until you get your ears trained to the point where you can understand at a normal pace. Well, that's it for today. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Patreon. Patreon Wednesday is the day. We are doing some awesome stuff. I've got some great things planned. And if you have any questions, if you want to talk, or if you want to know anything, go ahead and go to the description and you'll see a link to the Google form where you can ask questions, you can give feedback. And this is the last live of June. Are we going to continue with the lives? I don't know. We'll see. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.